You set 3 alarms this morning. You snoozed 2 of them. You checked your phone before you even sat up. You brushed your teeth, made coffee, commuted, opened a laptop, and filled your hours with tasks designed by other people for purposes you didn't choose. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, you probably asked yourself, is this it? Is this what a day is supposed to feel like? That question is older than you think. But the answer is stranger than you expect. For most of human existence, your ancestors didn't have jobs. They didn't have commutes. They didn't have deadlines or quarterly reviews or inboxes. And for a long time, scientists assumed this meant their days were brutal, a grinding, desperate scramble to survive. Hunt or starve. Run or die. Every waking hour spent at the edge of extinction. That story is wrong. In 1966, a gathering of anthropologists changed everything. It was called the Man-the-Hunter Symposium, and one of the researchers who attended, Marshall Sahlins, walked away with a conclusion that shocked the academic world. Sahlins studied the time-use data collected from hunter-gatherer societies still living in traditional ways, groups in the Kalahari Desert, communities in Australia, populations across Central Africa. And what he found was not a life of endless toil. What he found was something closer to leisure. Sahlins called these societies the original affluent society. Not because they had wealth, because they had time. The average forager, according to his analysis, worked between 3 and 5 hours a day to meet all of their survival needs. Food, water, shelter, everything else. 3 to 5 hours. Then the day opened up. Your ancestors were not exhausted. They were, by modern standards, extraordinarily free. But what did they actually do with that freedom? This is where it gets interesting. This is where it gets personal. Anthropologist Richard Lee spent years living alongside the Kung San people of the Kalahari, one of the most studied forager groups in history. He recorded their days in granular detail. Women would go out in groups 2 or 3 times a week to gather roots, berries, and mongongo nuts. A few hours of work would yield enough food to last days. Men would hunt, not every day, not even most days. Hunting was episodic, social, ritualized. And then came the rest of the day. They talked. They told stories. They napped in the shade. They played with children. They groomed. They sat together and did what humans do when survival is not an immediate threat, they connected. This is not a romantic fantasy. This is documented behavior. And it tells you something profound about what your body and brain were actually built for. Your nervous system was not designed for 8 continuous hours of cognitive output. It was designed for bursts. Focused effort followed by genuine rest. Your stress response, the cortisol, the adrenaline, the narrowing of focus evolved to handle short, intense situations. A hunt. A storm. A predator. Not a performance review. Not a never-ending project. Not a notification that arrives every 4 minutes demanding your attention. Researcher Mark Mattson at the National Institute on Aging has spent decades studying how the brain responds to challenge and rest cycles. His work suggests that the alternation between effort and recovery is not laziness, it is how the brain consolidates learning, repairs cellular damage, and builds resilience. The rest your ancestors took was not time wasted. It was the engine running. You were built to rest. And you almost never do. There's another layer here that most people miss entirely. In modern life, rest is passive. You scroll. You watch. You consume. Your eyes are moving and your mind is receiving. But ancestral rest was different. It was social. It was physical. It was somatic, felt in the body. Studies of the Hadza, one of the last fully foraging populations on Earth, conducted by anthropologist Frank Marlowe and later by evolutionary biologist Hermann Pontzer, found that the Hadza spend enormous amounts of their non-working time in face-to-face conversation. In physical contact. Sitting close together. Children climbing on adults. Hands touching. Eyes meeting. The kind of contact that releases oxytocin, that regulates the nervous system, that tells the body, you are safe, you are not alone, you do not need to run. Your body is still listening for those signals. And most days, it doesn't get them. There is also the matter of the body itself. Your ancestors moved constantly, but not the way you exercise. They didn't go to the gym. They didn't run 5 miles on a treadmill and then sit for 10 hours. Their movement was woven through the entire day. Walking, carrying, squatting, climbing, crouching, digging. Anthropologist Daniel Lieberman at Harvard has studied the biomechanics of ancestral movement in depth, and his conclusion is striking. The human body did not evolve to sit. It evolved to move slowly, variably, all day, and then to rest fully when rest came. The chronic back pain, the tight hips, the poor posture. These are not signs of a weak body. They are signs of a body being used in a way it was never designed for. Your ancestors didn't experience work as something separate from life. Work was embedded in social activity. Gathering was done in groups, women talking, children nearby, decisions made collectively about where to go and what to look for. Hunting was a shared endeavor with ritual significance. Success was celebrated communally. Failure was absorbed by the group. There was no performance review. There was no individual accountability divorced from context. There was only the group, moving through the day together. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi spent his career studying the state of complete absorption in an activity, what he called flow. The state where difficulty and skill are matched, where time disappears, where effort becomes pleasure. Csikszentmihalyi's research found that this state is not common in modern life. Most people experience it rarely, if ever, at work. But when anthropologists observe forager activity, a skilled tracker reading the ground, a woman weaving while telling a story, a group cooperating to bring down prey, what they describe sounds almost exactly like flow. Difficulty matched to capability. Purpose clear. Outcome shared. Your brain was not built for boredom. It was not built for meaningless repetition. But it was also not built for the chronic low-grade stress that modern work produces, the kind that never fully resolves because the threat never fully ends. Here is what the ancient day actually looked like, distilled into something you can hold in your mind. Wake with the light. Move through the morning with a purpose, gathering, hunting, building, tending. Work in a company, not alone. Reach a natural stopping point. Eat. Rest in the company of others. Nap if the heat demands it. As the afternoon cools, move again, lighter activity, children playing nearby, stories beginning to form for the evening. At dusk, gather around the fire. Talk. Sing. Settle disputes. Pass knowledge. Sleep when darkness comes, deeply, under stars. There is nothing mystical about this. It is simply the shape of a day that matches the shape of a human body and a human brain. The question is not whether you can live that way. You almost certainly cannot, not in full. But you can ask what it tells you. You can listen to what your body is signaling when it drags through the afternoon, when it craves conversation instead of screens, when it feels something easy in it the moment you step outside and move. You were not made for this pace. You were not made for this isolation. You were not made to perform all day for an outcome you don't fully understand. You were made for a shorter, slower, richer kind of effort. You were made for rest that actually restores you. You were made for the kind of connection that happens face to face, in the warmth of company, with your hands doing something real. The next time your morning alarm goes off and something in you resists, some ancient, wordless part that doesn't understand why you have to go, that part is not lazy. It is not broken. It is simply remembering a different kind of day. A day that looked nothing like yours. And everything like what you were built for.